You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
And welcome to this week's edition of The Mountain Gardener. We are deep into September, and fall is upon us. It just feels like fall is in the air. The trees are starting to show their color. Sumacs are in color. Mums are in full bloom. And this really turns into a decorating season. This is the time when you change out some of that struggling. Some plants have not bloomed in a while. They don't deserve to be in those containers at the front door. They need to be pulled out. Some of the coleus is way overgrown. It's like 3 feet tall, falling over and impeding walkways. It's time to either cut them way back or really this next month, if you can swap things out and root some of your winter blooming plants, it's a great time to be planting fall colored winter blooming kind of plants. That would be your kales, violas, or Johnny jump ups is the kind of old fashioned name to them. Whole series, edible kale, edible cabbage, edible spinach, edible, all the herbs do really, really well by planting. Now, switch some of those things out, put them in. If you wait until after frost, which is generally the end of about another month, if you're tuned in from the White Mountains or Williams, Flagstaff, maybe it's a couple weeks away, 2-3 weeks. If you're down at the lower elevations, you're down in Sedona, Cottonwood, Camp Verde, those areas, you might be end of November. But we're going to see frost. But it's a month to month and a half out for most of us. Kingman, you're probably not until December. And so just the North Country, we're in another month or so, we'll be deep into frost. And we'll start to see that happening. The nighttime temperatures will be cool, but the daytime temperatures, they'll be glorious, beautiful. That's why we live here. It's so nice. And so your plants will transition as well. If you wait until after those zinnias or geraniums or petunias or lantana, whatever it is, that summer blooming stuff, you wait till frost takes it and then plant your winter things, they won't fill out as nicely. They won't be as full and inspirational for the next 6 months. If you can open up some space in those gardens and have some color there, it'll really make a difference. This is your time to be planting some of those fall shrubs. Right now we've got this just beautiful crop of Virginia creeper. It's a vine, a native vine that grows up in the Bradshaws, Mingus, those areas, the higher elevations, and it just grows wild. But it's famous for its 5-leafed green patterned leaf and then its red fall color. We got a crop of red wall Virginia creeper. They're stunning, and they're starting to show color. It's really beautiful. Now's the time to plant those. This is the most popular time to plant those. This is when you have the most variety to plant. This is the season for those fall colored things. So this is when you want to plant those. I would say the same thing for burning bush. It's a euonymus variety. Very interesting shrub. Gets up to about head high or so. Beautiful, thick, green foliage. But it's called burning bush because of the burning red color. And they're starting to show some red to those. In another week, maybe less, they will be full on red. Just solid red in the neighborhoods and here at the nursery. So this is the time when you want to plant those. Nurseries don't even have those available in the spring. You have to plant those in the fall of the year. Otherwise, they're cut back and they're flushed out. We want to flush those out and get them full and thick before we bring them into the nursery. So they start showing up late summer through fall. And when that crop is gone, there's no more burning bush behind them. And so butterfly bush, we sold out, and now we're bringing more in because there's these waves of pulsating flowers, summer, fall blooming things. This is your peak window for planting butterfly bush. So and literally out in the nursery, painted lady butterflies, this little pretty orange probably half the size of a monarch, but they come in force. They were all over the butterfly bush. Very fun to watch. They're so fast moving and animated. They're difficult to capture on Instagram and have a video. It's hard to capture that. And so, but it's just fun to watch them come in and just playing almost, feeding on those butterfly bush. Now's a great time to be planting those. And we won't even go into aspens and maples and some of those. This is definitely your time. The best thing you can do for your fall landscape, bar none, I mean, without question, in the next month, I would put it almost to the point of you must do this or your landscape will suffer. You must fertilize, feed the yard. And what's the difference between fertilizer and plant food? They're the same thing. Now, so your grandparents would call fertilizer, they'd call manure fertilizer. I'm not talking that. I'm talking about a balanced food that you can spread underneath the canopy or the roots of that tree, shrub, vine, whatever it is, fruit trees especially, lilacs especially, spring blooming things especially, anything you want fall color on especially, because they're gonna benefit from this nutrient that you add to the food. Now we happen to make our own here at Waters Garden Center. It's an organic, natural thing. The main ingredient is cottonseed meal. It's got some bird guano and some other stuff in it. But it's got sulfur and cottonseed meal. Those two things lower the pH of the soil around the plant, and then so that brings out the colors in that fall colored plant. It brings out the blooms of your fall, winter blooming things. So bigger, brighter mums. Roses are in full color right now. They're glorious. You fertilize those, and you've got time to get another few buds coming on those roses. So this is the most important feeding of the year. So when you fertilize, you're fertilizing really, if you think in terms of holidays, you're fertilizing Easter, that'd be your spring fertilizing, Independence Day, 4th of July, that's right before the monsoons. Plants benefit from that. Halloween, you want to fertilize around Halloween when you start to see that fall color. It uses that food to store it up and use that to get through a harsh winter and then also to form next spring's flower and leaf buds. So that's why this is the most important feeding. And then for evergreens, I do absolutely recommend fertilizing at the new year. Evergreens like pine, spruce, fir, cypress, cedars, junipers, these evergreen needled kind of trees, shrubs, they turn yellow in winter. The daylight is so short. It's chill. They're shut down, but they start to go chlorotic on us. That is, the foliage turns yellow or off colored. If you fertilize at the new year and you fertilize at the fall feeding, they'll stay rich, thick, green. They'll keep that tremendous silvery blue color. They keep looking good right through winter. This is especially important for those fall planted evergreens. If you put a new spruce in, wonderful. This is the time to do it. There's no better season than the fall planting season for bigger evergreens, especially spruce and pine, fir, the needled or conifered evergreens. This is the sweet spot. They benefit tremendously because they're rooting through probably the end of the year or so. They're sending off tremendous root growth. And so if you can fertilize them again at the new year and at this October and the new year kind of schedule, you'll get more roots. They'll keep their color, and you will get tremendous growth next spring. Most conifers, they only grow once. So in the spring, that candle will elongate. So you get a new candle growth is what they call it. And then once that locks in, it's not going to grow anymore. Junipers, it's a little bit different. Cedars, a little bit different. Cypress, a little different. But your pine and spruce, you only get one shot. And so by fertilizing now and by fertilizing at the new year, you keep the color up and you maximize next spring's growth. I can't emphasize that enough. This is hard for you East Coast, Midwest folks. You just can't wrap your head around it. Well, I've never fertilized over there. Well, you had topsoil. We got nothing but clay and gross rocks and boulders and more clay and caliche. You need to fertilize more often in the mountains of Arizona. We really have a nice landscape.
You're listening to local garden expert Ken Lane, also known as the Mountain Gardener. Ken can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Listen each week as he answers timely garden questions unique to mountain landscapes.
Hi, Lisa with the plants of the week and our Coral Queen Kale.
This unusual plant has deeply serrated foliage with deep green outer leaves and a very dark crimson center.
She is definitely the queen of the autumn garden.
This crop has huge feathery leaves that form large heads the size of beach balls.
Very, very pretty and all for under $10.
Waters Garden Center, the place for people who love very pretty plants. They love to shop. You know how to find us.
Hi, Lisa with the plants of the week and our Ivory Feathers Pampas grass.
The most majestic of all grasses, this dwarf variety grows only 5 feet, making it easier to care for.
In feathery bloom now with long ivory plumes held tall above the flowing green foliage.
At $39, this perfect pampas grass is ready for fall planting while supplies last.
Only grown here at Waters Garden Center, the place where people who love ivory feathered grasses, they love to shop. You know where to find us.
You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
And we are in the studio with Lisa Waters Lane. She comes with your garden questions. Just what are other folks talking about out in the landscapes? And so the fall season's a season of transition, and it seems like there's been a lot of what should I do now kind of questions. Welcome, Lisa.
Yeah, thank you. I think that has to do with the number of newer people in the area.
Yeah, I think that's right. People are coming in from other places. They don't know. It's not like the Midwest. It's not like California or Seattle or East Coast. It's like the mountains of Arizona. So you got to get in tune with the seasons
Right.
that are here. So
Right.
that's gardening, just trying to not working against nature, but working with nature.
Sure.
And gardening kind of gets easier.
Oh, yeah.
So what do you got for us?
Questions. I got lots of great questions this week. Lots still going out there in the gardens, that's for sure. Our first question is from Marty. She had some black beetles come in and devour her butterfly bush. She wants to know, well, what are they? Number 1. Number 2, how do you get rid of them? And number 3, will her bush survive?
Yeah, the bush will survive just fine. So we've had several of these beetles come into the nursery. We're blowing them up on the microscope. We're seeing them close up. They're hideous looking, almost cartoonish looking. They can come in stripes, spotted, solid colors, gray, green, brown, red. There's a whole lot of, and it depends on what they're eating. Mm-hmm. So if they're eating butterfly bush, I would imagine they'll have some red or purple or some stripes on them that coloration, that pigment comes out in their skin. It's called a blister beetle. Blister beetles are like a 1-inch long insect, very thin bodied, but they're very social. They love to travel in packs or herds or flocks. Or what is a covey of insects? What is that? I got to research that. Google, tell me what a flock.
A plague?
A plague. So they're coming in. They eat foliage. They love Spanish broom, mimosas or desert willows, obviously butterfly bush in her case. And so what to do? They will strip your yard and not one leaf is left on the bush in the yard. And then all of a sudden they'll be there and then they'll just be gone. They'll just fly up and go, okay, party's done here. Let's go to the neighbors. And they ravage neighborhoods. They love the fall season. What kills them? They're pretty easy to eradicate. You simply get something stronger than probably soap and water. That's not going to do it. If you just hose them down, they'll fall off, fly back up, keep going. If you're going to hose them down, put a bug killer in there. We've got a bug killer here at the nursery called multi-purpose insect spray. It's a permethrin kind of product, very inert, safe for birds. I mean, just kind of keep your pets away from the area until it's dried, which will be 15 minutes right now. And then as you spray these blister beetles, they'll be dropping and dying before your feet. They'll just be gone. But you need to be ready for them. And I would say a pump-up sprayer is not ideal. You need quantity. When there's 1,000 insects on your butterfly bush, literally the plant will look like it's black as they're crawling around or whatever color they are. There's so many. Spray them with a hose end sprayer that injects this multi-purpose insect spray, and that will eradicate your problems and keep them from roaming around the neighborhood as well. So you're doing your gardening neighbors a favor, and you're solving your solution as well.
Sure.
Blister
So
beetle.
are they hatching and coming in? Are they migrating in? How do they come in such force?
Well, they hatch. They're in the ground, and there's a symbiotic relationship with grasshoppers. So I've heard word. Now, I'm not an entomologist and all this stuff, but I've heard from people who know that part of what they feed on their larvae live in the ground, and they feed off of grasshopper eggs.
Yeah.
So when the year before had been bad with the grasshoppers, generally you can almost count on the next year blister beetles being terrible, especially out in the valley areas.
Sure.
Williamson Valley, Paulden, Congress,
Prescott
down
Valley.
Prescott Valley, in the thick of it, Dewey, Mayer, Humboldt, Curtis Junction, those areas, it can be really, really bad.
Okay.
And so that's also where the grasshoppers are bad. So if you really want to keep them at bay, don't let the grasshoppers come. And then somewhat.
Too late.
I know. But they emerge, they're winged,
Yeah.
they hang out, and then once they're in large enough numbers, they fly around. You'll actually see a swarm. Kind of like if you've ever seen a bee's swarm or ants swarm. It's kind of like that, only it's this black cloud that roams around.
Literally, black cloud.
Yeah.
Okay, get rid of them. They're bad.
They're bad.
All right. Doug is out in Prescott Valley. He says he has a pampas grass that is so-so, but then he saw the ones that we have here at the garden center and went, oh my. And he wants to know, what are we doing to make ours so big and beautiful?
So at the garden center, our landscape is there to inspire. And so if it's weak or thin or ugly, we rip it out because it's not inspiring, brings you down. We want to sell more pampas grass or more grasses. And so it's just really, really simple. 4 things. I do 3 times a year. I fertilize those pampas grass. I think there's 3 of them out there.
Yep.
And they are utterly stunning. I mean, unbelievable plumes. These big tall grass about head high with plumes that hover above the grass. And they're spectacular. That's an ivory feather pampas grass out there. We've got several varieties here. But I fertilize them with all-purpose plant food 3 times a year. It's a fertilizer we make here at the garden center. I fertilize at Easter, 4th of July, and Halloween every year. And then I'll do one other thing. In the 2 spring fertilizations, I'll add to that fertilizing, I'll add superphosphate. Superphosphate, that's 0,15,0. It's all phosphorus. That middle number in the fertilization, that forms and makes more flowers and more plumes. So if you want more of that showy, white, feathery plume, and you want them to be larger, fertilize them and then kind of front load or super juice the fertilizing with superphosphate, and they will be stunning. One last little tip. People in fact, I just helped a customer before the show. They said, should I cut them back?
Right.
Absolutely. Yes. Every year we cut them back to where those curlicues are about knee high or so, because otherwise you get this brown foliage left over from last year with the new growth coming in, and it doesn't look as healthy. So ours are vibrant green, and they've got big plumes, so they look stunning because we prune them back in winter. We fertilize them just like I mentioned. That's kind of how you do it. It's pretty simple.
Does watering make a difference for those guys?
With as much rain as we've had, I don't think so. We've got them on a tree and shrub irrigation system. I think they have 2 emitters.
Right.
We just cycle them once a week. Don't treat them overly watered. Don't treat them with extra care. Just treat them. Mainly it's food.
Yeah.
Food and cutting back.
Okay. Good information. So Melinda wants to know, what is all that racket in the trees?
Oh, yeah. So you should try teaching a garden class in the back greenhouse and live stream it on Facebook. The noise coming through the microphones is ridiculous. They sing in chorus. So it's a locust or cicada. Or there's several names. A locust is what everyone knows them by. The Midwest and East Coast folks, you're used to that 17-year or 12-year, or there's different types or cycles of locusts. We don't have that. In the mountains of Arizona, we have a variety that comes up every year, but not as in the same quantity or force. So we've got them that come up. It's a great big green bug with huge bug eyes. And they emerge. They live in the ground for about 6-7 years. Then they emerge and they come up and mate. And that's their mating call. The males are the only ones that make that noise.
Well, that figures.
It's loud,
Kidding.
rambunctious guys. They make the noise. They attract the females. They have no mouth part. They eat nothing. Once they emerge, they only have one purpose. And so they're laying eggs. And so they don't really do damage to your trees. Some of your trees, they like cottonwoods, willows, fruit trees. There are certain trees they like, elms that they love. And they'll kind of poke. She will actually lay her eggs in underneath the bark. So you actually see this almost like a sandpaper look, a rough bark look. She's poked her eggs underneath the bark, and he fertilizes those. They'll hatch here in the fall, and they'll drop to the ground, and then they'll live the next 7 years underground, eating roots of trees and things.
So are they dangerous? Are they bad when they're in the soil?
Nope.
Are they like a grub where
we
you
don't
really
even
wanna...
treat them. There's nothing to worry about them other than they're just loud and obnoxious. I wouldn't worry about them. I wouldn't.
Okay.
I can sell you a spray that will kill them, but it just isn't going to make any real difference. So don't worry about it. So cicadas making all that noise. Be right back with more on the Mountain Gardeners.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
The 2018 Get Real Men's Expo is dedicated to spiritual guys of all faiths. This year features the monster truck Bigfoot, exotic cars and competitions filled with guys young and old, in calf roping, archery, and axe throwing. Ladies, yeah, you heard me right. This is a great father-son event that creates memories and motivates men to reconnect with their family and the God that uniquely loves each one of us. Special Forces vet and cage fighting world champion Brad Robichow is flying in as our motivational speaker. Chad is not only famous for his wins in the cage, best-selling author, but super motivational when it comes to living your faith as a man. His testimony is riveting. You have to hear it. I mean, wow! This year's Expo is the morning of September 22nd from 8:30 to 1. Chad Robichow shares his fearless leadership as a Marine, husband, and father at 11. Remember, September 22nd at 8:30, Yavapai College in Prescott, the Get Real Men's Expo. If you're a man, it's free.
You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
I do have a big shout out to the Alta Vista Garden Club. Thank you for having me out as your guest speaker. Very energetic, probably 40, 50 people in the room this week, and it's just an energetic group of gardeners, hardcore gardeners, which is actually difficult to present in front of. You can't just share anything with gardeners. You got to up your game because they've heard a lot of different speakers on gardening. And so I tried my best. They wanted me to come out and share wildflowers, how to grow wildflowers. So I went through what I do, and I thought I would take this segment, just share that with you, kind of a synopsis of this hour-long class that I taught. Let's see if I can do it in 6 minutes or less. How about that? And so wildflowers, the mountains of Arizona grows really nice wildflowers. Mostly we start those by seed, but not always. So I really want to cover how to spread the seed, what kind of seed, and then how to prune them or cut them back so we spread the seed that from our plants that summered over with us. And so really, if you've got a wildflower patch already, I recommended, this is what I do. I take a lawnmower, and I don't have the bag on the back. I just run it across the wildflower patch, and the seed just go flying everywhere underneath that blade. And so I harvest the seed and then spread them around, and they just get slung everywhere. So I get this mixture, this blended colors of wildflowers. It's quite pretty. It's a good way to do it. An even better way to prune back your wildflower patch is a weed whacker, especially for big yards. So there I'll take the weed whacker, and you get more sling factor when that blades going around or the string. I just cut them back, get them back to the ground as best I can. When I get them all cut back, seed are all over the place, I'll take a real light layer of composted mulch. We call it premium mulch here at the garden center. I'll spread that out as thin as I can over that seed bed that I just cut back. And so I'm trying to keep the birds off the seed, and I'm trying to increase seed to soil contact. I'm trying to keep the sun, keep things moist. So it increases my harvest, my germination rate when I put just a slight layer. Usually I'll spread the mulch down, I'll take a stiff tine rake, and I'll go tines up. So I've just got that bar underneath at the top of the rake, and I'll just scooch it back and forth as thin as I can, leveling off that seed bed, and it really increases my game. Now, it's a bit early to be pruning back wildflowers. You want to wait till they turn brown. That's probably another 2 months out. But that's how I prune back some of those taller flowers. Rudbeckia or Mexican hat or Black-eyed Susan, they actually get quite tall. So you want to wax those things back and get them back under control, and then harvest those seed and sling them around. You can actually hand harvest if you want, but that's just a lot of work. It's more work than I want to do. And so I don't tend to do that. I just use a weed whacker, or I actually will lawnmower them. But either way, it works really, really well. Now, if you're going to start a brand new patch of wildflowers, we've got, let me start with the word of caution. You're coming into the holiday season when you'll see canisters, brightly colored canisters with wildflowers. Hey, give these to your gardening friends. They'll love you for it. And when you really analyze what's in this fancy package, it's all vermiculite or filler, and then a bunch of annual flowers. There's no real perennial plants that come back every year from the roots, the same plant over and over. That's what you want your wildflowers to be. So it's just a $9.99 pretty package, but it's not really what you want in your yard. It's a gift you give to others, but not a gift you want to give to yourself. And so there you want to really analyze. You want the perennial varieties of flowers that grow in the higher altitudes of Arizona. And so there I partnered with a company called Beauty Beyond Belief. Little tiny guy up in the Rockies. He goes out and hands harvests wildflower seeds. It's a hobby gone awry. Now he has a whole company like this, and he sells to little garden centers that sell wildflower seeds. We've got an Arizona mix, a Rocky Mountain mix, a drought hardy mix, one you can't kill, deer resistant, butterflies, pollinators. He's got a few different mixes, but they're perennial seed that grow and then come back here in the mountains of Arizona. When I'm doing that, what I'll do is I'll get my favorite seed. Let's say an Arizona mix, a real pretty mix. I'll take a few colors, like I want more purple. I'll buy a package of pure verbena and add that, or maybe it's red poppies, or I like yellows. I want more coreopsis. I'll almost custom blend my own. I'll take a seed mix we've got here at the nursery and then custom blend it. Then I'll take my wheelbarrow and I'll dump a bag of potting soil or composted mulch, premium mulch. And so then I'll put all my seed and I'll pour that into this wheelbarrow and soil mix, and I'll blend it all together. So many of these wildflowers, the seed are so tiny, you can't see where you put them on the ground. And so when I add some mulch to it, now I spread the mulch with the seed mix. I created my own hydromulch. And so now I can find where I spread this wildflower seed bed is. I get better coverage that way. I get better germination rate, and I keep the birds off my wildflowers. The best time to plant wildflowers, a bit early. Wait till we start to see frost. And so probably December, January, February, that's your best window for planting wildflowers. Most of these wildflowers need to have some freeze and thaw to crack the hull open so they can germinate. So they need to go through winter to really perform well, and then they'll start coming up next spring. If you want instantaneous wildflowers, we actually have them already grown and in bloom right here at the nursery. We call them perennials, but they're the mountain selection of perennials that can naturalize and go by themselves. But that you can kind of cheat. You can have some perennials already blooming and then put some seed around them and create your own bed so you can have your cake and eat it too. We live in America. For $20, you can have glorious color right now, and for an extra $10, you can have more seed down the road. But that's how you plant wildflowers in the mountains of Arizona.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Hi, Ken with the Plants of the Week and our fire alarm, red mums.
With a name like Fire Alarm, you'd expect large red blooms that take a fire hose to put the glowing petals out.
Just provide a little garden soil for a flaming red that will last and last.
But wait, there's more. This Fire Alarm Mum comes back again for even bigger show next year and just $3.99.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love red mums, they love to shop.
Hi, Waters with the Plants of the Week and our Regal Petticoat Maple.
If you love maples but want superior leaf color, then this is your shade tree.
Regal maple leaves are glossy green on top with a velvety purple underside.
Through autumn, the petticoat leaves turn gold on top and red on the bottom side. I mean, wow!
This is a great shade tree for just $99.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love Regal maples, they love to shop. And we're back with Lisa Waters Lane in the studio. She comes and just inspires us, just gives us food for thought, or flower color for thought, or design for thought. And so we give this segment to her because I think it's good to get a gardening. What the fun about gardening is, you talk to different gardeners, you get different perspectives on the same plant, how they're growing them. It's just fun to see that. And so welcome back in the studio, Lisa.
Well, thank you.
What you got for
good
us?
To be back. Well, I thought we would talk flowers again. Now,
sure.
We probably talk about it a lot, but I love flowers.
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep talking about them.
Yeah. Well, the mum, we just unloaded a truck of mums.
Oh,
some of those things are like 3 feet across. It's ridiculous.
Yes.
I mean, one plant by the front door, instantaneous. It's beautiful.
So usually I have a hard time pulling out my summer flowers because I'm like, oh, they're so pretty. This year, I don't know. I'm kind of done with the summer flowers and I'm ready to put the mums and the pansies and the kale in.
I think it's because we committed too much to potato vine and sweet Susan vining kind of flowers, and so it looks like Jurassic Park. There's like
it does
the same color. They're just, it's taking over the entire. If you sit still long enough, the plants will start growing over you. So you just want to thin them out.
I went a little crazy with the sweet potato vine, but I love it. It grows so easy.
Yeah.
But yes, definitely switching over. So some of the things I want to talk about today is when you put those plants in, when you put mums in, pansies, even some of the nice fall perennials, coneflower, coreopsis, those kind of guys, you can't just throw them out there and ignore them because of the way they blossom. They take a little more care than some of the other stuff that we have, like our petunias or our vinca.
Yeah.
So if we want to keep them looking prime and beautiful, and it doesn't take a lot of time. Once a week, you could go out there and do what we call deadheading. So deadheading is just like it sounds. You're taking off those old blossoms. And what that does is it allows the new blossoms to emerge and be big and beautiful. And if you don't deadhead, if you aren't taking those old blossoms off, you're going to have a really kind of ratty looking plant.
Yeah, they go to seed is what they do. So coneflower, you mentioned a couple. I think snapdragons are that way. Not so much pansies and violas, but definitely your perennial kind of things. Rudbeckia, black-eyed Susan, gaillardias, those fall mums. If you take the old spent flower off, it's going to try to seed. So it's going to, I must reproduce. Right. Winter's coming. I must reproduce. So it tries to go to seed as fast as it can and then spread the seed so it can repopulate. But if you take that flower off, it goes, whoa, I just lost my flower. I don't know why. We don't know it's a gardener. They didn't see it was a deer or heavenly or whatever. They just know the flower is gone. Put all my energy into forming more flowers so I can maybe seed. So if you just deadhead, you're tricking the plant into producing waves of flowers, not just one wave of flower, waves, pulsating flower color.
Yeah, so with my chrysanthemums, when I deadhead, I usually can get 3 different bloom cycles off of them. So you're talking blooming all the way Thanksgiving, even further, if unless we get really cold, which hasn't happened in a while. But it takes no time at all. You can use scissors. I have a little pair of what I call my nippers. which is a little tiny set of pruners that are really, really easy to use. So I go out in the morning. It's so cool and beautiful out in the morning right now. Out this morning, I was walking the dogs, and it was almost cold.
Yeah,
I had to
it's
put a little
definitely fall.
jacket on.
It's kinda
Yeah,
nice.
so you can definitely. Doesn't take much time, but it really makes a huge, huge difference in the quality of the plant and how it looks.
So you're planting fall things, which means now I'm committed to work.
It's
Deadheading
not
flowers.
work.
Well, it's therapy. It can be therapy. So
Okay.
you take your
Well,
coffee
you
out and
just
do
made
that.
it sound like work.
Well, just thinking, so like petunias, but not every flower is like that. You plant kale, you don't do anything to it.
True.
You plant pansies and snapdragons.
Well, see, I guess I would disagree with you on pansies
Okay.
and violas, because the more you deadhead, the more blossoms you're going to get.
But they bloom so much anyway that,
Well, yeah.
okay, all right. I'm all in. I love fall, just that it's decorating. I've got gourds, giant gourds growing on the back in the backyard. They're almost ready to harvest. I'm going to pick one of those and put them into a pot just to show off, just to highlight going, look at my gourds.
I'm not sure how to take that.
giant pumpkins. I've got probably 100-pounder out there.
Yeah, it's big.
It's huge. It's getting bigger, but you can almost watch it grow by the
Yeah.
day.
You know, it's funny out on my walk, because I walk every morning. Out in the middle between two houses, there are two big pumpkin vines growing.
Oh, really?
It's probably, I don't know, the crows or the javelinas ate the pumpkins and
Yeah.
spread the seed, and now these are coming up. But they're getting big.
Yeah.
I was surprised.
The rain. This has been the perfect pumpkin year.
Yeah.
And gourds, squash, patty pans, zucchinis. It's been the perfect year. They adapt well to this kind of
Right.
of growing season that we've got, and they'll keep growing through first part of November or so, depending on your altitude and where you're
Right.
at.
Okay. But yeah, I was so surprised to see those pumpkins out there in the middle
They
of
might
nowhere.
be our pumpkins.
It could be.
It could easily. I don't harvest them all. I kind of leave them open, going, "Here, birds, have at it, have fun. It's a food source for you."
Right.
If I didn't harvest or the bottom rotted or something happens, so they could have easily taken pumpkins. The whole neighborhood's being cursed with pumpkins from the Lane Casa.
We'll blame you. We'll blame you. But back to our flower discussion. So yeah, I think pansies have to be, in my opinion, pansies, violas, Johnny Jump Up, snapdragons. But also you need to fertilize them.
That's true. Yeah.
You know, sometimes I think it gets towards this end of the season and we're like, I'm done. I'll put my flower power away and I don't need to use it anymore. But yeah, we can definitely keep using flower power or all-purpose fertilizer on those flowering plants, because we want them to bloom and look as beautiful as long as possible. No reason just to ignore them.
Yeah, I think some of the prettiest flowers coming up are planted now. So you'll plant now. People don't new to the area. They don't realize how nice it is 12 months out of the year. They're thinking it's going to get cold and everything shuts down and won't grow. You plant pansies and kale and snapdragons and dusty millers and those kinds of things now, and they will keep looking good right through winter when everything else dies back. Your geraniums have been gone for months.
Right.
The petunias are gone. I mean, all that summer zinnias have been vaporized. But those varieties of winter blooming flowers, they keep blooming. And so you need something to inspire you as a gardener as you're looking out in the yard in your containers and your raised beds, something that's got color. And those things actually look good right through the cold.
Definitely.
And they like the cold. They celebrate the cold. And so they don't like the summer months. They don't like the heat. So that's when you do put your heat levers in. So the potato vine will be long gone in our yard, but the pansies, petunias, dusty millers. I love dusty miller because it's so low care.
Right.
Animals don't eat it. It's just really easy to grow. Nice gray, silver colored plant, and then it accents all your darker colored
Definitely.
flowering things.
Yeah.
And so it's a
Yeah.
great plant.
I love to put my veggies into, like my Swiss chard
Yeah.
in with the pansies, kales. They look terrific together. Really a nice combo.
That's sacrilege. You must put vegetables over here by themselves, flowers over here by themselves, and they cannot be commingled.
It's a new day, dear.
Yeah, I
It's a new
know.
day. So just a hint for people too, if they're big perennial gardeners, it's a good time to be shopping for perennials.
It's true.
There's some good deals out there, and it's still a good time to plant those perennials. No reason to wait till next year when you can find some good ones right now.
I just told the staff, Amy and Michelle, the crew, I said, okay, buy 3, get 1 free. So mix and match any way you want. I don't care if whatever varieties, buy 3, get 1 free. I mean, it's not buy 3 4-inch mums and then get the $40 sunflower thing.
Big one, but yeah.
It's it's some common sense there, but
Right.
it's just time. We're trying to thin it down because we're shifting over to completely the winter blooming things. And so it's a great time to plant. I mean, they will flush out, fill in. They'll actually root through the end of the year. So you actually have a larger hosta, a larger sedge, a larger echinacea, a larger rudbeckia. By planting now, it'll be larger next spring because you get 2 flushes of growth before it blooms. Fall and then next spring. So it's a great time. Well, thank you, Lisa. Appreciate you coming in the studio and sharing some winter perennial advice. How to deadhead. That's important. Be right back with more on the Mountain Gardeners after this.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Hi, Ken here with the plants of the week and our fragrant low sumac.
The cute foliage is fragrant when brushed against and utterly detestable to wildlife of all kinds.
A knee-high native that takes any abuse, loves wind, blistering hot sun, and rocky hillsides.
At $39, this hardy shrub is ideal for owners of investment and commercial rentals.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love native sumac, they love to shop. So I love the fall decorating season. So the pumpkins are coming in. Gourds are starting to grow. I've got some giant pumpkins on the vines in my own personal gardens, and they're up to about way beyond basketball size. They're up to, 18, 20 inches, 24 inches across, and they're growing by the day. It's amazing to watch. It's so fun growing giant pumpkins. As I harvest those, I'll rip those vines out, clear up the space, and go, okay, Clint, done with that. Because it kind of looks like Jurassic Park, where gourds and pumpkins are. In fact, I've got the largest pumpkin as of today here at Waters Garden Center. This is a giant pumpkin. It weighs just shy of 500 pounds. This thing's not quite as large as the VW Beetle. It's up on a table. It's white. What's interesting about pumpkins, this is an Atlantic giant pumpkin. This is what records are made of. They vary from white to green to orange to more of a plum color. There's different variations. Genetics play out in that vine, and they can grow multiple. On the same vine, you have multiple colors. Very, very interesting. So my personal giant pumpkins are a very light orange color. Not rich and thick like you see a smaller pumpkin. It's a very light pumpkin, very pretty. This one that's the current largest record for this year is 439 pounds. It's the biggest one grown in Sierra Vista. It was showing at the county fair, Yavapai County Fair. And I said, I'll take it because I didn't know what to do with it. It would fill the dumpster up instantly. And so we're going to show that off through whenever it rots. I'm guessing sometime in November, we'll actually open it up. If you want to see what the inside of a giant pumpkin looks like, we'll open it up and invite everyone to come in. If you're part of our garden club members, if you got a connection with us at all, we will invite you to go, hey, we're going to open it up this coming Thursday at 3 o'clock. That's of interest. Bring the kids. And then we'll give everyone that attends a seed. So if you want to try to grow a giant pumpkin, here you go. Here's what the current record. And then I'll harvest all the rest of the seed, and I'll grow those for next year here for customers here at the Garden Center. I'll have them available, I don't know, end of April, May, sometime in there. Probably have several waves of giant pumpkins coming in, or you can take the same pumpkin that will get big, take it home and grow one in your own yard. So that's kind of my current plan. We'll see how long that pumpkin takes for the bottom to finally sink in and go, I'm done. I wish I was in a refrigerator. So, but that's my plan. If you want to see that, Come in. It's on display right in front. You can't miss it. It's awe-inspiring. The same farmer looks like he's got a 500-pounder in the field. He's going to harvest it shortly, which would blow out the state record, the all-time Arizona state record. I can't wait to see that pumpkin. Now, things go wrong. Voles can eat the stems. Like last year, I had a 150-pound giant pumpkin growing, and a mouse burrowed a hole in the bottom and then ate the inside out. And I had invested everything in this one pumpkin. All others were pruned off. All the energy went into this one giant pumpkin. So I had to prune it off and start over, and I couldn't recover at that point. I might have had a 30, 40-pound pumpkin come on, which is, I mean, that's nice. It's way bigger than you can get from a grocery store, but still, I had such a beauty. It was so big. It's the biggest pumpkin I'd ever grown, and I've grown a lot of pumpkins. So, but as you see, I just did this week, I just ripped out my cucumbers. Not all of them, but some of them were I was just tired. You can only eat so many cucumbers. At some point, I go, that's enough. I don't want to deal with it had some white flies on it, and I did spray them. I said, okay, no more cucumbers. Pulled them out. So I'm starting to clean things up as I get tired of them. I took out another tomato. I've got some nice green tomatoes on, some vines. Others were kind of going, it's kind of weak. You could tell they're tired. I don't know why. There's at least got some disease on them. There's some things happen. I just pulled them out and said, that's enough. Time to switch that out. And I'll wait another couple weeks and I'll put my winter vegetables in that space. So your broccoli, cauliflower, kale, spinach, lettuce. Radishes. You can get another crop of radishes in. There's a whole series of plants that love the cool nights that are to come shortly. So they'll take advantage. They'll bulk up with the warm days right now for the next month. But they're looking forward to the chilly nights that are coming. Then the flavor becomes crispy and just melts in your mouth with a speckled lettuce. Or kale becomes very sweet when it's got a chill to it, when it's got a frost every night in warm days. The flavor actually comes out. It goes off flavor when you're harvesting kale when it's too warm. So most folks make a mistake of planting those types of things like in May when they're planting their tomatoes and other things. Well, they don't taste that good. So you get discouraged. So it's better to plant them now. Broccoli for Christmas dinner, always at the Lane House. So you can have that by planting them now through October, and you're harvesting those things for the end of the year. So there's this 4-season climate. It's called square foot gardening or high density gardening. So you're taking that same space and putting something else. And literally we can have 3 crops coming out of the same garden space. You've got very early spring. You'll plant in March. You're harvesting through May. When that's all done, that's all your cool leafy kind of things. When those are done, you rip those out. You put your things that form a fruit, so eggplant and tomatoes and pumpkins, cucumbers, anything that forms a fruit is more of a summer crop. And when those things putz out and fade out, or they just get tired, or you're tired of them, you pull those out and then you put your next leafy crop in. You can literally have harvest out of the vegetable garden from March through the end of the year. There's a couple months in winter where not so much. For most of us. Now, you folks at the lower elevation, you probably keep on going. Spring Valley, Cordes Junction, all the way down to Cottonwood, Camp Verde, Sedona. There's some spots in there you probably year-round harvest. But up here, at this 5 to 6,500 foot level or so, you got to be more strategic with it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm cleaning things up. So I pruned up some of my potato vine. I ripped out some of the vincas, and I'm putting pansies in. So I do have a big shout out going out to Dr. Mangum, Mangum Dental Office. He's been my dentist forever. Great guy, beautiful office. But what I really like about Dr. Mangum is he's a gardener, and his wife works in the office with them. And in front of their office are stunning containers of flowers. I mean, you're walking through a garden to go get your teeth worked on. At least you got a mental relaxation before you enter the office of doom. I mean, I don't like my teeth worked on. I've got great teeth, but it still makes you nervous. I don't care. You must be Superman if that doesn't make you nervous. but to have some nice, they do a better job than a hotel does. Or a restaurant. They're famous for fresh herbs. Come and eat our Italian pasta. That's a great idea, but they just have beautiful flowers. Their mums are growing. Their kales are in. I saw some pansies. They're starting to transition over to their fall and winter flowers. So if you visit the Mangum Dental office in January, they're going to be beautiful. Yes, the coleus will fade, but their violas will take over. Their snapdragons will be in bloom. Their mums still have interesting character to them through the end of the year. So they've got it going on when it comes to container gardens and commercial properties and inviting you in, and a memory point. I remember that. If you're a gardener, you can't go to his office and not go, wow, that's pretty good. I'm impressed. I asked him how often you watering them. These are bigger pots. I said every other day, about 3 times a week. Going, oh, brilliant. So that's I like to know that. So it's good to keep track of how other gardeners are taking care of their gardens. And so you can translate that information over to your own gardens, your own yard. And that's kind of what this format, this show is all about. Ken and Lisa Lane, and this is what's working on in our gardens. Here's what we're seeing. Here's what we're doing. We hope that helps you determine what to do next in your own yard, especially if you're new to high altitude gardening. It's a challenge. You just don't know the sequence. A lot of it's just working with the environment, not against it. You're used to, Alabama or New York or other parts of the country, not here. So once you figure that out, gardening becomes much easier. So at least you're making mistakes in the right direction. That's gardening. We got more advice for you. Be right back.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona, with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Hi, Ken, with our Vine of the Week and our Arizona Sunset Trumpet Vine.
Huge, deep red flowers cluster to create a dramatic summer show.
This vigorous vine thrives and blooms with near neglect.
Fast growing to cover chain link fence, shade structures, and trellis quick.
Easy to train as a ground cover up a rock face to hold soils from erosion, and just $34.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love vines that bloom red, they love to shop.
Hi, Ken, with the Plants of the Week and our Fire Alarm Red Mums.
With a name like Fire Alarm, you'd expect large red blooms that take a fire hose to put the glowing petals out.
Just provide a little garden soil for a flaming red that will last and last.
But wait, there's more. This Fire Alarm Mum comes back again for even bigger show next year, and just $3.99.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love red mums, they love to shop.
You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
Now, in the mountains of Arizona, we are famous for outdoor activities. And so I'm a kayaker, mountain biker. I love mountain biking. Just being out there in the forest, enjoying it. And so I took a razor ride with a buddy of mine this week. So took up to top of Thumb Butte, Copper Basin, that area, overlooking the sunset. Oh, it's beautiful. Just that we deserve to be outdoors. And so to keep conditioned, I was riding my mountain bike into the studio. I probably should have done that. So if you sense I'm wheezing a little bit or a little off, breathing a little harder than normal, it's because I was trying to keep up with traffic. May I just, some of you, traffic is getting heavier in the mountains of Arizona. We're not putting new roads down to keep up with growth. Not like we should. We're trying. We're keeping them repaired. But these little tiny towns in the mountains of Arizona, we just don't have the money to build roads like crazy. So we're trying to share the road amongst us. Could I just request, be kind to bikers? Biking in, people are honking at me. It's almost like people are gunning for you or something. Some of you need to medicate more. You're off your meds and you're just angry, bitter people driving, and to share the road with a bike is like an insult. Come on, folks. Why? I've got a bike lane. Why are you honking it? Why are you trying to scooch over? Be kind. Not everyone on a biker is in recovery and can't afford a car. Some of us own an actual larger business and we're just trying to keep fit. We just like to be, I'm just frustrated. So be kind, folks. I mean, come on. You don't have to be honking the horn and trying to see how close you can get to the guy. The fun part was I had a bus go by with a bunch of kids in it going, "Hey, how you doing? Have a good ride." I'm just cracking up. It's so much fun. Anyway, this town, Prescott, I grew up here. And so I've been riding bikes on the roads here since I was a teenager, since the 70s. So 50 years plus I've logged thousands of miles on my different bikes, road bikes or mountain bikes. I can keep up with traffic. I can go 25, 30 miles an hour on a flat surface. I'm pretty buff. I got a nice bike. I can keep up. So just give a little bit of patience would be okay. Sharing the road is good. So with that, thank you for bearing with me. Sorry, I know most of you are good to go. I just got a little flustered coming in. The garden class coming up. So we've got 2 of them. Today is how to plant. That's today's class. And then next week, October 6th at 9:30, irrigation. How do you water your plants? How do you set the clock? And how do you go into the winter season? We're going deep into irrigation. I'll teach that one myself. October 13th, the top trees of fall. It's a show and tell of which are the best fall colored. If you just wondered the difference between ash and maple and aspens and locusts and which ones are best, we'll go deep into that and then how to plant them. And then Lisa will teach the October 20th, container gardens, container design. How do you have a beautiful fall colored container that will bloom right through winter? She'll go into all of that. It's just a fun one, interactive class to go with. That's it for this show. Lisa and I camp out here at Waters Garden Center. Come in and say hi. You heard the show. We love talking to friends.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Gardening has always come natural to me. Green thumbs, they just run in the family. So when the Family Garden Center was offered to Lisa and I, we jumped on the opportunity. I've always loved coming to the nursery, being surrounded by all the beauty, helping the backyard gardener and passing on some of that natural magic that happens so easily for me. We aren't just selling plants, we're offering garden success. My name is Ken Lane, owner, and you'll feel the magic here at Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road, here in Prescott.
You've been listening to local garden expert Ken Lane, the owner of Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Join him each week as he answers timely garden questions unique to the area. He can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center, located in Prescott at 1815 Iron Springs Road. Thanks for tuning in to The Mountain Gardener.